Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. We have an advanced lesson for you today. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and I'm very excited about this lesson, Marco.
It's very interesting. It's about a very controversial topic and a very popular person in history, Charles Darwin.
That's right. So he's most famous perhaps for his book, The Origin of the Species. And we're going to be talking a lot about science today. So put your thinking caps on.
All right. So without further ado, why don't we listen to this dialogue for the first time?
Man, it's been forever. What have you been up to lately?
I've been busy preparing for my exams, not to mention all the term papers I've had to write.
Same here. I'm up to my neck in work, but at least we've got summer holidays after finals. Where are you headed now?
I'm going to my anthro class. We've been focusing on Darwin all term, since it's the 200th anniversary of his birth or whatever. I'm sick and tired of Darwin, Darwin, Darwin!
What? Why? How can you not like Darwin? His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. His theory of evolution revolutionized the fields of biology and anthropology.
I don't like him. His theory of human evolution and natural selection is full of holes. It's not as solid as you make it out to be.
Say that again and you'll make enemies with half of the academy, not to mention your professors. Furthermore, the explanation proposed by Darwin about the origin of the species and the process of natural selection constitutes a grand step towards a coherent understanding of the world and its very beginnings.
I'm not minimizing his huge contributions to science. It's just that his theory reminds me of the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
What are you talking about?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This is a classic logical problem, and I think it applies to Darwin's theory. How did the very first living organism come to be?
Interesting. I think that question is better suited for my philosophy class. In the meantime, how about we settle this with a duel?
All right, interesting. They have very different views on Charles Darwin, right?
They do, and they're both pretty nerdy people. This is a very nerdy university conversation that's happening between classes.
Yeah, I think maybe they're like PhD candidates or something.
Perhaps. All right, so before we get to talking about some of the ideas in today's dialogue, let's talk about some of the words and phrases that we hear to understand better what's going on. The first part we're going to talk about in today's language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, on language takeaway today, let's take a look at the first word. And, well, one of the things that many people say is that Darwin revolutionized the fields of biology.
And so he revolutionized these because he pushed them forward. He made many changes. He forced changes. So people had to change the way that they thought about these things.
If you revolutionize something, a topic or an idea, you are creating new knowledge almost, right?
Exactly. You can think of the word revolution, which is a thing. So you think of the Russian Revolution or the American Revolution. These are times of change. So to revolutionize is to bring about change.
Very good. All right, so moving forward, they were talking about human evolution. Human evolution. What is that exactly?
Good question. So you're not a monkey, I'm not a monkey, but we come from monkeys, right?
So we evolved.
Right. So the process is called human evolution. That means the process by which humans changed forms to become what we are today.
Okay, so you evolve. Now, is it evolution? You usually think of something positive, right? Something evolves into something better. Is it always that way?
No, we have another word for the negative, right? So the positive is to evolve, to become better. To get worse is to devolve.
Okay.
To devolve, to go back and to kind of lose things that you had.
Okay, interesting. And then they were also talking about Darwin's theory of natural selection. Natural selection.
Okay, this is maybe one of the things that Darwin was most famous for, and that's why we've included it in this language takeaway, because it's a key phrase. It's something you hear people talk about a lot. Okay, so natural selection is a process, again, and it's the process by which stronger animals survive over time and weaker animals don't. So if there's a weak species, it can't really survive because it keeps dying and dying, and then finally there's no more. And so this is called natural selection because no one's actually choosing what animals will survive, but it's kind of a natural process.
Right, Mother Nature is choosing it.
Right.
Very good. So natural selection, this is one of the things that Darwin is most famous for. And, well, as Catherine mentioned, Darwin wrote the book Origin of the Species.
Right. So origin means beginning. So the origin of mankind, right? So there are many different kinds of animals. You could even say there are many different kinds of like mammals, but there are many different species within that. So human beings, black bears, koalas, chimpanzees. These are all species. And so a species is a classification. So the origin of the species is kind of a way of telling the story of how all these things came about.
All right. The origin of the species. And the last one, this word is kind of strange. He talked about the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
Okay, conundrum. I love this word. It's very funny sounding.
Yeah, it
Conundrum.
Conundrum.
It means like a problem or a riddle or something that's hard to understand.
All right. So in this case, it's the conundrum of the chicken and the egg, right? Which came first? How else can you use conundrum?
You could say that maybe there's a situation that's very strange and hard to understand. This is quite a conundrum.
This is quite a conundrum we have.
Yes. So
It sounds very fancy, very well educated.
it does.
All right. So interesting words on language takeaway. Why don't we move on now to 4 phrases on Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
All right. On Fluency Builder today, we have 4 phrases, as we said. So what's the first one?
The first one is great. It's very visual. You say, I'm up to my neck in work. Or I'm up to my neck in papers to write. All right, so this means I have so much stuff to do that you could pile it up and it would come up to my neck.
So I have as many papers that are almost as tall as I am.
Exactly. And so I could say, I'm up to my neck in work. I have no more time to do anything.
Sometimes people also say I'm up to here, and then they'll
The point.
they'll point at their forehead or somewhere around their head. I'm up to here with your nonsense.
Exactly. So
Right.
this is a way of saying that I'm really busy.
I'm really busy. I'm really tired of it. All right. And our next phrase is one that most mothers use. I'm sick and tired.
Ugh, I'm sick and tired of all of your whining. Go do the dishes and don't complain.
Right. So it always goes together. You are sick and tired.
Right, and sick comes first. So I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of your bad attitude.
Okay. So, and that means that you are.
I'm just tired of it. I don't want you to have a bad attitude anymore. Or I'm
really
done.
annoyed by it.
I'm annoyed.
Okay, sick and tired. And then we saw a phrase that was a little bit separated. He said, the sentence went like this. His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. So to turn something on its head.
Like you said, Marco, it's split into 2 parts. So he turned the field of computer science on its head. So to turn on its head means to completely reverse something, to turn it around. You think 180 degrees.
Okay.
And so if biology used to be one way, then Darwin made it completely different.
So we can say that Isaac Newton completely turned physics on its head with his theory or his findings on gravity.
And then, years and years later, we had Albert Einstein, who turned those theories, or who turned that theory on its head with his own ideas about physics.
Very good. So to turn something on its head, to completely change the course of or prove something to be maybe wrong. And the last phrase that we have is the person argued that Darwin's theories were full of holes.
Okay, so to say a theory is full of holes is a little bit different than saying that his pants are full of holes, because when you say something is full of holes, maybe they actually have holes. But a theory it's an idea, so it can't have holes. What you're saying is that it's not completely sound. It's not without some problems. And so maybe you're saying that, the cookies are gone out of the kitchen, Marco, and I saw you in the kitchen, so clearly you ate the cookies.
Right, so I can say that's full of holes because it was me and it was 3 other people who were in the kitchen, so you can't blame me.
It could have been the other 2 people.
Right. So if something is full of holes, it's that it has maybe mistakes or it's still missing complete evidence to prove it right.
Or it has bad logic.
Bad logic. All right. Interesting. So we've taken a look at a lot of words and different phrases here. Let's listen to this argument one last time.
Man, it's been forever. What have you been up to lately?
I've been busy preparing for my exams, not to mention all the term papers I've had to write.
Same here. I'm up to my neck in work, but at least we've got summer holidays after finals. Where are you headed now?
I'm going to my anthro class. We've been focusing on Darwin all term, since it's the 200th anniversary of his birth or whatever. I'm sick and tired of Darwin, Darwin, Darwin!
What? Why? How can you not like Darwin? His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. His theory of evolution revolutionized the fields of biology and anthropology.
I don't like him. His theory of human evolution and natural selection is full of holes. It's not as solid as you make it out to be.
Say that again and you'll make enemies with half of the academy, not to mention your professors. Furthermore, the explanation proposed by Darwin about the origin of the species and the process of natural selection constitutes a grand step towards a coherent understanding of the world and its very beginnings.
I'm not minimizing his huge contributions to science. It's just that his theory reminds me of the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
What are you talking about?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This is a classic logical problem, and I think it applies to Darwin's theory. How did the very first living organism come to be?
Interesting. I think that question is better suited for my philosophy class. In the meantime, how about we settle this with a duel?
All right, we're back. So interesting, this Darwin's theories and his explanations for the origin of species and life as we know it. But there is the opposite to this, right? There is a certain thing called creationism.
There is, and this is a big source of controversy, especially in the United States, because in some places, people want to teach creationism as well as evolution in schools. And so this is the big question. Are they still equal as theories, or is one theory more proven than the other?
Right. And it is kind of hard to determine which one is better because one is based on faith. The other one is based more on scientific evidence, right? So they're not really even on the same scale. As we learned before, that's kind of like apples and oranges, right?
It is. And there are some people who would say that we have lots of ways of quote unquote proving what happened in the past. But as long as we weren't there, we never really do know.
Right.
And there's always changes in science. So how can we be sure that what we know now isn't false, isn't misunderstandings?
Right. I think for now, this is the best explanation, but that doesn't mean that it's the correct one. Maybe in 100 years from now, we'll have another explanation that's much better or maybe complementary to this one.
I am 82 years old. My name is Isabella. I live alone now. My husband died many years ago. My children live far. But this week, something special is happening. My family invited me to Cancun. A big reunion. My daughters, my son, my grandchildren. I said yes. I bought the ticket. I packed my things, and I came. I arrived today. I was tired, but happy. I was ready to see them again. But first, I needed to go to the hotel. I went outside to find a taxi. A car stopped. A taxi? I opened the door. I said, "Hello." The driver said nothing. That was the first strange thing. I told him the name of my hotel. He started the car. Still no smile. Still no words, just silence. I thought maybe he doesn't like to talk, or maybe something is wrong. I asked, "Is it a busy day?" He said, "No." That was it. One word, no smile, no interest. I stayed quiet, but I was thinking, who is this man? Why is he so cold? Then he turned on the radio. A sad song played. He turned it off fast, too fast, like the song hurt him. I said nothing, but I knew there is pain inside this man. After some minutes, he asked me, "You came here alone?" I said, "No, my family is here. We will meet later." He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he said, "Family is not always easy." His voice was low, heavy. In that moment, I knew something. This ride is not just about going to the hotel. This ride will be something more, something none of us expected. The car was quiet again. I looked outside, but my mind was busy. I thought about my family. I thought about dinner. I thought about hugs and smiles. Then the driver spoke. He said, "You are lucky." I asked why. He said, "You have a family who wants to see you." I didn't answer. Not yet. I waited. He continued, My wife and I, we fight all the time. We don't speak. We don't smile. It's like we live in two different worlds. I said, "That sounds hard." He said, "Yes, it is." I sleep on the couch. My daughter doesn't talk to me. She says I never listen. Maybe she's right. Now I understood. He wasn't angry at me. He wasn't rude. He was just broken. I listen, he said. I work every day. I drive this car. I bring people to nice hotels. I smile at strangers, but in my own house, I feel like a ghost. A ghost. That word stayed in my mind, he said. Last night I almost left. I packed a bag. I wanted to disappear. I asked, "And why didn't you?" He said, "Because my daughter cried. I heard her behind the door. She didn't say anything, but I heard her cry." Now his voice changed. It was slower, softer. He said, "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a father or a husband. I wanted to say something, and something true, something strong. But I stayed quiet because sometimes silence speaks louder than words. And inside that silence, I knew one thing. This man was not driving to my hotel. He was driving through his pain. I looked at the driver. I didn't ask more questions. I didn't try to fix his problems. I just listened. He said, "My wife says I only care about money. She says I don't talk to her anymore." I asked, "Is she right?" He said, "Maybe. I don't know. I work all the time. I bring food. I pay the bills. But yes, I don't talk. I don't ask how she feels. I don't tell her how I feel either." He paused. He said, "Sometimes I forget she is a person, not just a woman who cooks or cleans. She's tired too, but I didn't see that." I said, "Sometimes we only see when it's too late." He nodded, then said, "And my daughter, she used to tell me everything. Now she stays in her room. She closes the door. She says, 'You never listen,' and she's right." I didn't listen. I was always on the phone, always working, always tired. There was a silence, a heavy one. Then I spoke. I said, "I also made mistakes. I was married for 40 years. I thought I had time. But one day my husband got sick. Then he was gone. He looked at me through the mirror. I continued. I wanted to tell him so many things, but it was too late. I was always busy. I was always waiting for the right time, but the right time never came." He said, "That's how I feel. Like maybe it's already too late." I said, "No. If your daughter cried when you wanted to leave, it's not too late. If your wife still argues with you, it means she still feels something. When people stop talking, that's when you should worry." He said, "I thought she didn't love me anymore." I said, "Maybe she thinks the same. Maybe she thinks you don't love her." He was quiet. Then he said something unexpected. "My daughter wrote me a letter last year. She left it in my bed. I never read it." I asked why. He said, "Because I was afraid. I didn't want to know what she really felt. I thought it was hate." I said, "Maybe it was love. Maybe she wrote it because she still cares." He said, "Do you think so?" I said, "You won't know until you open it." He stayed silent. I could feel his mind racing. Then he said, "What if it's too late?" And I answered, "What if it's not?" At that moment, I could feel it. Yeah, something inside him was changing. Something small but real. I didn't plan to say these things. I didn't come to Cancun to help a stranger. But maybe that's why I came. Maybe this taxi ride was not an accident. The car kept moving. But now the silence felt different. He said, "I think about leaving every day. I dream about starting a new life. No wife, no daughter, no problems," I asked. "And what do you feel in those dreams?" He said, "Peace, but also sadness." I said, "That's not a real dream." A real dream brings hope, not pain. He stayed quiet. Then something strange happened. He pulled the car to the side of the road. He didn't say why. He just stopped. He said, "Can I tell you something?" Something I never told anyone. I said, "Yes." He took a deep breath. He said, "Last year, I made a big mistake. I met another woman. I didn't love her. I didn't even like her. I just wanted to feel free. I never told my wife, but I think she knows. I think that's why everything is broken." My heart stopped for a second. I said, "And do you still talk to that woman?" He said, "No, it was only one time, but that one time changed everything." I said, "Sometimes one moment can destroy years, but one moment can also fix what is broken." He said, "But I don't deserve a second chance." I said, "Then why are you still driving me? Why are you still talking? Why did you stop the car?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because your words feel like my mother's words. She died 3 years ago, and before she died, she told me, 'Don't let pride destroy your home.' I didn't listen." I said then, "Listen now." He asked, "Do you believe people like me can change?" I said, "Yes, but not tomorrow, not next week, only today. Change begins today." He looked down. Then he said, "Maybe God sent you to this car." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. But I knew this was not a normal ride. This was something bigger. He reached into his pocket. He took out a small paper. He said, "This is a letter from my daughter, the one I never opened." I looked at it. He asked, "Should I read it?" I didn't answer. I asked, "Do you want to stay the same, or do you want to be the man she needs?" He looked at the letter again. He said, "I'm afraid." I said, "Be afraid, but open it anyway." He held the letter in his hand, and then he opened it. He opened the letter. He didn't speak. He just read in silence. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. I waited. I didn't want to interrupt, but inside I was asking myself many questions. What did she write? Was it a goodbye? Was it full of pain or full of hope? Finally, he spoke. He said, "It's not what I thought." I asked, "What is it?" He said, It's love." I didn't understand. I asked, "What do you mean?" He looked at the paper. He said, "She wrote this 1 year ago." She said, "Dad, I know you're not perfect, but I still love you. I miss you. I want my father back." I stayed silent. He continued. She said, "I know you're tired. I know you're lost, but please don't give up. I'm still here, and I still need you." He looked at the paper again. She said, "Don't walk away from us. Walk back to us." And then came the twist. He said, "There's more." At the end of the letter she wrote, "I hope one day someone will remind you who you are. Someone will help you find the way home again." I froze. He looked at me through the mirror. He said, "That person is you." I couldn't speak. My chest felt heavy but also light. He said, "You are not just a passenger. You are an answer." I said, "Sometimes life gives us people. Not for the whole journey, just for one stop. But that one stop changes everything." He smiled, but then another twist. He said, "There's something else." I asked, "What?" He said, "My wife, she doesn't know about the letter. She doesn't know how I feel now. She doesn't know. I want to fix things." I asked, "Then what will you do?" He said, "Yeah, I don't know yet." I said, "Then let me ask you one question." He said, "Okay." I asked, "If today was your last chance, what would you do?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I would go home. I would hold them and I would tell the truth." I said, "Then maybe today is your last chance." He looked forward. He didn't drive. He just sat there thinking, feeling, and I waited for his next move. He didn't move the car. He just sat there. Then he said, I never planned to talk to anyone today. I just wanted to finish my shift and go home, but now I don't know what happened. I said, something real happened. He said, yes, but what do I do now? I said, you already know the answer. He looked at the road. Then he said, I don't want to take you to your hotel. I want to go home, I asked. Then why don't you? He said, because I'm scared. What if they don't want me anymore? I said, you won't know until you try. But if you wait too long, they may not be there. He said, you're right. Then slowly he started the car again, but this time he didn't drive fast. He drove like someone who was thinking, someone who was choosing something new. After a few minutes, he said, I'll take you to your hotel first. I said, no, take me to the nearest bus stop. My family can pick me up. You need to go home. He said, but you paid for the ride. I said, the ride is done. The real journey is yours now. He stopped near a small bus station. I said, this is good. He said, I don't know how to say thank you. I said, then don't say anything. Just leave the change. He smiled. It was a quiet smile, a true one. Then he said something I will never forget. He said, you changed my life in 22 minutes. I hope one day I can do the same for someone else. I said, you will. He looked at me one last time. Then he turned the car around and drove away. I watched him leave. I stood there thinking about what just happened. I came to Cancun to see my family. I thought this trip was about hugs, food, and laughs. But maybe it was about something else too. Maybe this trip was also about one ride, one broken man, one chance to speak, and one truth that I now believe more than ever. Sometimes we don't choose the moment chooses us. I came here to see my family. I wanted to rest. I wanted joy. But life gave me something more. One short ride, one conversation, one man with a heavy heart. I didn't plan to speak. I didn't plan to listen. But sometimes the moment calls you and you must answer. We think we are too old to help, too small to matter. But maybe one word can change a day. One question can open a door. One act of kindness can save a life. That man was not just a driver. He was a mirror. He showed me my past, my mistakes, my silence, and I showed him his future, a better one. So now I ask myself, and I ask you, who needs your voice today? Who needs your time? Who needs your forgiveness? Don't wait for the perfect moment. It may never come. The right moment is now. Speak now. Love now. Listen now. Because sometimes one moment is all we have.